It was one of those things I was like, oh, this is not possible. I don't know how. There was so much time that I was like, this is not okay. This is not normal.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Alannized, and this is Noche de Pendejadas, your favorite podcast turned talk show en donde yo te traigo a tus influencers favoritos para platicar y posiblemente sacarle sus trapitos al sol. Hoy les tengo un episodio, amigas, that I know ustedes allá en casita están súper emocionadas de escuchar y ver. So without any further ado, please help me welcome my guest tonight, Leo Gonzalez! He's like, oh shit, I'm on camera.
Oh, they're rolling.
They're rolling. How are you? ¿Cómo estás, amigo?
I'm good. Aquí estamos. It's about time.
This has actually been a while in the making.
Years.
I want to say maybe like 2 years ago.
At
I had
least.
reached out. You're like, yeah, and I finally gave in. You're like, finally, the price was right. There ain't no price. I'm like, fuck, I hope he doesn't think. Just kidding. No. But I'm so excited de tener aquí Leo, you guys. I had actually ran into him at Adam's party, and I was like, you know what, ya ando un poquito pedo. I'm gonna approach him. Le dije, I was like, hey, ¿cuándo vamos a hacer el podcast? Ya estuvo bueno de estar correteándote. ¿Cuándo lo vamos a hacer? Y aquí estamos el día de hoy.
Ya estaba yo en el baño allá. Like, oh, yeah, I got you.
He's like, I got you. I like how you're like, we had that combo.
When you messaged me, I was like, wait, did I see it?
Did I agree to that?
No, I'm sure I did, because I've been waiting. But I was like, oh, I guess we saw each other.
You're like, fuck, was that you? You're like, I didn't even notice you were there. Imagine. Yeah. No, but I'm really excited, you guys. En verdad que sí, this has been a while in the making. And I'm excited just because I really do want to get to know a little bit more about you. Obviamente, I love your videos. They're super funny. Pero quiero conocer un poquito más de la persona detrás del actor, del comediante. And I feel like today, yo y ustedes se van a ir el día de hoy conociendo a Leo un poquito más. Antes de que empecemos, cuéntanos un poquito más. How has your week been? What have you been up to? Cuéntanos un poquito, amigo.
Oh, my week has been good. It's been a little busy. I just moved. I just got a new place.
¿A dónde?
I'm in Malibu.
You're like next to Lady Gaga.
Do you know her? Yeah.
You're like, do you want me to call her right now?
Yeah. I will. No, yeah, it's been good. So I've been moving. I just got back together with my.
I'm like, I'm getting a divorce.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this a fucking announcement video?
I'm like in recovery right now from my divorce. Yeah, so it's been good. I just got back from. I did some shows. I've been doing stand-up. So I just got back from 4 shows in San Diego.
Which I'm super excited to talk about all of that today, you guys. Hoy les tenemos una plática bien buena el día de hoy. Como pueden ver, tengo mis notas y tenemos 4 páginas de un chingo de cosas that we're going to go over.
How many do your other guests get? Also 4?
Maybe like 3 to 4 or 5, maybe.
So
you're just in the middle.
I know. Average.
No, I'm wearing my favorite shirt for you.
Is it?
It is my favorite shirt. People always tell me like, Allen, agárrate otra, pero es porque es la única que tengo, güey. That's why it's my favorite. No, but it is my favorite because I feel like it looks really good on camera. The blues, the purples, kind of como que me resaltan. And today, I usually wear a black shirt. And I was like, no, sácamela de colores because today I'm super excited. Y por la emoción, amigas, nos vamos a tomar un shot. Aquí tenemos...
I didn't even see we had one here.
You're like, what the fuck? We're already drunk. We already finished the bottle before this. Just kidding. We're all alcohólicos. You're like, we should probably go to an AA meeting now. You're like, fuck the podcast. Pa' arriba, pa' abajo, pa' el centro y pa' dentro. To a good-ass episode.
Ay, I thought it was
that was big.
That's an expensive tequila. You can tell that's an expensive one.
It's, what is it, 70? Don Julio 70. I actually like that tequila a lot because I feel like whenever I get drunk.
Hashtag ad.
Today's video is brought to you by Don Julio. I wish. I'm like, if they want to hit me up, I'd be more than gladly to because I actually do love that Don Julio like bottle. I feel like I don't wake up with hangovers.
Oh, really?
I feel like I can drink on that y me levanto el próximo día como si nada. Bien revivido, güey. Hasta te da energía.
Yeah.
Try it.
Ready to take on the world.
You're like, Alan, you have a problem. Me, I'll try to justify it. This episode of Noche de Pendejadas is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the US, I know they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I know I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I found Booking.com to have something for everyone. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Pero en verdad que sí, amigas, estoy súper emocionada. For those of you guys que no lo conocen, tell us a little bit more of who you are and what you do.
I am Leo Gonzalez, and I do content online, like comedy skits, and I've been doing stand-up, and I've been doing acting, like TV, movies. Lately.
Haces un poquito de todo.
De todo. I like to work.
Influencer, actor, comedian, and I'm so excited because I feel like you're such a funny guy. Y siento que all the funny people tienen muchos traumas.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was. Dim the lights.
Dim the lights. I'm like, cue the music.
Yeah.
What was I made
my dad's here, walks through the hallway.
I'm like, special. We brought someone out for you. Hey, bitch, I'm like, when you see this picture of you, what do you think about that time? Bitch.
I start writing. Like, I don't know why
I didn't sign up for this. You're like, I thought I was gonna give you a comedy show, Alan.
Yeah.
Do you feel like comedy has done that for you though? Because I have heard a lot of your like trauma and your stories, and I feel like you've
heard it. Oh,
I'm like, who told you? I'm like the background check.
Yeah.
Do you feel like comedy does something for you where like it really does heal you in some way?
Yeah, I think like everybody that's funny or like that does like funny things or is goofy, I feel like that comes from that, right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm that way. You're like, you're funny.
No, I'm like, oh, when's the funny start?
A lot of like the funny people online have gone through so much, and I feel like that's a big reason why I love the podcast, because I can see you online, I can see your scripts, I can see how amazing your career is going, but I really do get to see who Leo is as a person cuando me siento aquí con la persona y platicamos un poquito, y eso es lo que vamos a hacer, amigas, y ya me voy a callar porque esto se trata de Leo. Vamos a empezar con la primera pregunta that I always love starting with, because I feel like it's really important to go back. Take us back. How was Leo growing up? ¿Cómo era tu infancia?
I'm an only child, so I grew up very, damn, it's starting off like that, huh? Very lonely. But, it was just my mom and myself. It was just us for a long time. I think my dad was there for a little bit of time. He was there for a good minute. But left when I was like right before like junior high, And so, yeah, I think a lot of my childhood was very much just like trying to find myself and trying to like figure. And I think we all were. Like, I'm not unique in that. But I think like I was very confused by everything with all my classmates, all my friends. I was like, oh, like it feels like we're so different. Like there's so much like there's like I see your guys' life and I don't match with that. Yeah. So I don't know, but like so I think that's when like that like wonder started in my life,
Cuéntanos un poquito más de eso. Nos cuentas that, at a very young age, tus papás se separaron. Did they get a divorce or they just separated?
Yeah, they separated for
How was that for you? Obviamente, in that moment of your life, I feel like tú ya estabas consciente de lo que estaba pasando. ¿Cómo te afectó el divorcio? ¿Qué era lo que tú mirabas that you were like, you know what, maybe my parents weren't meant to be? Did you see a lot of like the problems at home?
When they separated, it made a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Like it was not like there was no part of me that was like,
surprised.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times as like kids and I mean children in general, children of parents, whatever age you are, I think a lot of people have this idea that like, why did this happen to me? And I never had that. I always was just like, well, like my dad, moved on. And I was like, I get it. I don't know why, but that was such a natural feeling of like, go find yourself. It didn't feel right when they were together. And I don't know why. There was like an inept feeling inside of me that was like, I don't want you to be here if you don't want to be here. I would hate to be the reason that you're here.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I think it caught on later on where I was like, oh, actually, I'm a little mad. You know what I mean? I think it takes a lot of time.
¿En qué manera?
I don't know. Like, I think you get older, and now I'm 30, and, in my later 20s, it started to feel like, oh, dang, like, I think that did affect me. Yeah. I just didn't know it at that time, because at that time I was very, like, oh, I gotta make sure that I got things to do.
Yeah.
I think as a kid it was just like more like we just got things to do. Like don't worry, don't blame, don't whatever. And I think as you get older and I think like started doing like social media, then and I mean you know this more than a lot of us is like social media then like overtakes you and it's like, well, I mean, I want personal friendship, personal relationship now because we have the people that are amazing and supportive that we don't know. But then at that time, it's like, okay, like now I want tight knit.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where I got like,
you're like,
oh,
that's when it
actually,
hits you like, oh shit, I didn't grow up with my dad and that affected me in this and that way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's so funny that you're mentioning that because I was literally having like a heart-to-heart convo with my mom as I was getting ready today. I was talking about her because she was telling me about like her going through shit and I was telling her, I was like, you know what, Mom, like maybe you should go to therapy. You know, you've gone through a lot as a child. And I feel like our brain, when we're kids, kind of puts all the trauma like in the back end because that's our brain trying to like salvarnos or just trying to keep us in a safe space that it kind of like te pone todos esos traumas in the back burner. But age really is the time when it catches up to you. Because I feel like for me, you know, I've gone through a lot of traumatic things as a child. During that time, I was just like, all right, we're on the go. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. And now as an adult, I feel like all those traumas are finally coming back and they're like, wait, hola, aquí estamos, like acknowledge us. You know, cuéntanos un poquito más de la relación con tus papás growing up. Obviamente, you know, your parents get a divorce. How was your relationship with your mom after? Do you feel like you guys got super close? You almost felt like you had to be like the new man of the house. ¿Y cómo cambió tu relación con tu papá after the divorce?
I mean, with my mom, I was very close with her because she's been very sick my whole life. You know, so as a kid, she's always been in and out of the hospital. She has a lot of things that have gone on with her body, and so I think we were close by default, but I think I spent a lot of time just like not understanding that at that time. And so I think as I got older, it was like, oh, like this is kind of crazy. Like it's not just that I don't relate to my peers at school, but it's also that like my peers have different relationships with their moms. Like their moms are showing up, and it's not that my mom wasn't showing up because she didn't want to, but it's that she was just very sick. For me, it was always just like, I'm busy. And I think when you're busy, like I've never been the type of person who's just like, well, I'm not gonna do anything today. It's like, well, no, like I'm anxious and
on edge,
sad and scared, but like I still gotta go get what I need to go get. Yeah, and then with my dad, like I saw him still. He was very much like around. He was going from Hanford to Guanajuato back and forth and working and everything. And so for me, I was like, he's trying.
Yeah.
You know, I can't just sit back and be like, oh, like you left and like that's not mine.
You never resented him?
No. Because for me, I'm like, first of all, I'm like, I get why you left. I understand. But also, at least he was still present. And I would see him randomly, like, around town, and he'd be on his bike, and he'd give me, like, a 20 or, like, $40, you know? And so I'm like, I get it. Like, I get it. That's not... Because now I'm like, I mean, how old was he when I was
young?
10?
Yeah.
You know, I'm 30 now, and this shit is hard. I can't imagine... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine doing what they were trying to do. You know, not to minimize people's trauma, but I feel like we blame people too much when like the human condition is such a hard condition.
Yeah. Damn, you know what's so crazy? I always say this thing. Yo por mucho tiempo, I had this grudge and just kind of not hatred, but I would just be upset with my mom's mom. I have like this little story. I don't think if I've ever told it, but before we came to the United States, vivíamos en Mexico, and my abuelita on my mom's side had a little tiendita. Tengo esta memoria very like stuck in my head, and I feel like for a lot of years, I kind of would bring it up to my mom to kind of justify the love I have for my dad's mom versus the love that I have for her mom. Me acuerdo que cuando yo estaba chiquito tenía su tiendita, and I wanted a candy, y me dijo, no, dile a tu mamá que venga y lo pague. Y yo lo tomé muy a pecho, yo lo tomé muy en serio. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, girl, well, she was like trying to make a living. Like she probably barely had enough to get by. Yo aquí vengo un pinche chamaquito queriendo siempre quitarle sus pinches dulces que va a vender la abuelita. You know what I mean? So I feel like it is very much like as kids, because that's the only thing we know, explotamos muchas cosas out of proportion. You know, cuéntanos un poquito más de tu vida growing up. Nos cuentas that your mom, your whole life was sick. How was that for you as a kid? Do you feel like you were always on edge? Was there any moments where like algo le pasó when it came down to her health and you were like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do? Who do I call? Like, were you ever in situations where you're like, oh shit, like this is crazy for a kid to be living?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You're like, I was not prepared. You're like, that was not in your notes.
I didn't know you were listening.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, it affected me so much because, like, I mean, I remember, like, I think I was, like, in 8th grade when one night, she was pregnant with twin girls, and she had a miscarriage. And she was, like, pretty far along. And so I remember, like, the moment that we went to the doctor, to the hospital, to the ER, and I remember being in there with her, and she's like crying, and I have like this like very vivid memory of me just like being on the side and just being like, damn, like her life is crazy. Like her life is so crazy. She had miscarriages before me and then miscarriages after me. And I always was just like, damn, I wish that like during these moments that these things were going on with her, I wish that I was like, oh, it would be nice to be someone's little brother or older brother, because it'd be like, oh, at least like if I had an older sibling, then I would be comforted. But if I had a younger sibling, I would feel like, well, at least I can find comfort in comforting.
Yeah.
And like some sort of, you know, protection in that way. It was tough because it's just you're going to school and you're in like these milestone ages when you're supposed to be like developing. And I mean, I was, because you are learning a lot and you're growing up a lot. But I also was just like, damn, I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah.
Like this does not feel normal. This does not feel like a normal task, and it doesn't feel fair, but it feels less fair for her because she's like really going through it. I always felt like whenever she'd be in the hospital, when she'd be sick, I would feel like we're both sick because she's sick, but I'm the son of a sick person and there's really nobody else there.
Did you understand what was going on? Like, for instance, cuando she was losing the twins, did you grasp on like, oh shit, like these were my siblings to be? Did you understand what was going on, or you were kind of like, oh, we're in the hospital again?
No, and every situation, I understood exactly what it was because every hospital stay was different. And so I was very like, okay, well, this is happening, but that night was very like, oh no, that's because it was like she was expecting that, but I was also like, oh, I get to be a brother now, you know. And so it was like, it was like there was expectancy in two different places. That day was such a you know, there's that idea of like BC, you know, like before Christ, AC. Like that's one of those kind of like feelings to me, is like before that night and after that night. And I feel like I have a lot of periods of time in my life, a lot of milestones that feel like BC, AC moment.
The news was, I'm sure, very devastating for your mom to lose the twins, but you, as, you know, preparing yourself to be a brother, how do you feel like that affected emotionally the news of your mom losing her twins?
I was just sad, but I mean, a lot of the stuff that went on, even though it was like also monumental, a lot of my childhood was super logistical. And so it was like, it's just another thing that we have to walk through and deal with. It's not fully just emotional. It's also just like, okay, well, I thought this was gonna happen and it didn't, so now
move on.
Yeah, I have to, you know, we have to go to like the next thing.
Do you feel like it made you kind of grow up quicker than everyone around you because like there was really crazier things going on in your life that you're like, you know what? The time to be a kid is not right now. I have to be there kind of like supporting my mom, being there for my mom, being strong. How do you feel like that affected the way you grew up? Do you feel like it made you grow up quicker?
Yeah, I mean, I think it naturally does feel like, well, I mean, I can't really do this thing that we're all doing. I gotta clock in over here, you know. And I think that was a natural thing. Was like I have things to do, and maybe things will be fun later. Maybe things will be, you know, a little more balanced later. But like right now, like we got things to do. And so I think at that time I definitely had like a feeling of like, well, I can't really, do these certain things. And I think I also lost like interest in doing certain things anyways, because I was like, well, that's not real anyways. Like this little thing at school or this like fun event or something, it's like it's not even necessarily real. It's a game or it's this, but it's not. It shouldn't be the focus. The focus, we got to get through this, and maybe after this we can be on the other side of the hill. But right now it's like we can't cry.
Would your mom kind of talk to you about what was going on? Like, would she be like, mijo, mira esto es lo que está pasando?
No.
Or were you just kind of like living as it was happening?
Yeah, it was just happening. She was sick, and I think when you're super sick, it's the last thing you need to do is explain yourself.
Yeah.
I think she was also just like learning things. So I was learning them with her. So I learned a lot of like hospital culture at that time. And so now as I have been getting older, it's like now I'm very used to like the dynamic of a hospital room and the culture of that.
How is she doing now? Is she better?
She's okay. She's okay at the moment. She's stable. She's had a lot of things happen since then that were even bigger than stuff that happened as a kid. So, she's been recovering and I think there's no real like normality anymore, but you also learn how to exist or coexist with your new reality. If you don't have an option to, and that's just the way things are, then you have to make the best of it. And I feel like I'm finally learning how to like step into that idea of like, let's just enjoy what we have right now, because it is easier in many ways than it was.
Estaba viendo una entrevista. Mencionaste que en el 2016, 2017, your mom had gotten a stroke. Cuéntanos un poquito de eso, qué es lo que pasó, cómo te das cuenta tú y cómo te afectó en ese momento lo que estaba pasando con tu mamá.
Yeah, 2016, I had just started a new job. I started working for one of the news stations in Fresno, and it was like one of my dream jobs, photographer, and it was like Univision, and I felt so like, oh, finally, like this is such a dream, and so I started working there, and the day that I started working there, I get sent out for my first assignment to go film some video for the 11 o'clock newscast, and I get a call that my mom was in the hospital, and she had a stroke. From that point on, it went on to be like 2 months that she was in the hospital, and she was like unresponsive for a lot of that time.
Was she like in a coma?
Yeah, completely unresponsive, which was like crazy because I always was like, dang, like it always felt like two things that were happening on that very day. At Univision, it was my first day, which I thought was, at that time, I was like, this is the best day of my life, and
like career-wise.
Yeah, like it's like and it's pretty hard to get a job at a TV station, like, and I got super lucky, and I shouldn't have gotten that job, but it was like the best. But then also like the worst thing happened on the same day, and I feel like that day was very like, I learned like balance that day too, of just like, all right, like how are we gonna do this, and so I get that call, and I spent the next few months going to the hospital and spending that time with my mom. And then she got moved to the stroke center in Bakersfield, and so that's even further because I was working in Fresno, living in Hanford, and instead of after work and driving to Visalia, I'd be driving to Bakersfield, and my car was not reliable.
So se te paraba everywhere.
Like my rack and pinion was broken. I couldn't fix it. I was like dropping like all the fluid. It was just like multiple things. The battery was like, I had to like unplug it every night so that it wouldn't die overnight. And one day I remember like I went into my boss's office, Sandy. She was my boss at Univision, and I just like talked to her about it. And I don't know why, like I like just was like, it wasn't crazy or anything, but I was like, yeah, this is what's going on. And I remember she just was like, well, come to the house later on so we can talk. So I went over, and then she gave me her car keys to one of her cars. And she was like, tú úsalo, like, llévatelo and just bring it back when you're done with it. And I remember just like driving her big like Toyota, like reliable, like good AC, you know. And I was like, damn, like this is so. It's so nice. And it was like,
Yeah.
you know, and I think about her often because I'm like, no, like during at a time that you needed someone, like you got someone,
Yeah.
you know, and I needed someone in my body, and she was so like, you know, and that was, I mean, that's the culture of like that station in Fresno. Those people were so good to me, and David Ibarra, who's the news anchor for the evening shows, he was so loving to me and so like constantly
Like checking up on you.
every like, and I was like, bro, like I grew up watching him, you know, and he and you know, and Univision in Fresno. I mean, I don't know how it is in LA because I've only been here a few years, but like in Central California, it's like that's the one guy you watch in
Yeah.
Spanish. You know, everybody knows David Ibarra, everybody knows Lupita Lomeli. Like there's no competition. There's no, you know.
Was that like a surreal moment for you? Like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Like, the person I grew up watching is letting me borrow their car to get to work.
Like it was, yeah, he was the news anchor, and so yeah, he was just like, I was like, bro, I'm going to work, and I'm like, I get to see this guy, and he's just such a loving person, you know.
I do feel like, again, going back to my mom this morning, because I was literally having like a heart to heart with her this morning. And I do feel like it sucks when you're going through like an amazing moment in your career, but in your daily life, in your real life, like it's going to shits, right? Because I can relate on that. When we first moved into the studio, which I feel like when we moved in here, I also felt like the podcast was at its peak when it was growing the most, where my career was taking a shift. Fue exactamente cuando se me murió mi abuelito, right? So I was like in the best place career-wise, and I was like, oh my God, I'm really accomplishing my dreams. But then my life is falling apart. I just lost my grandpa. That was like my second father. You know what I mean? So it is crazy, and it is kind of sad when, you have this great thing going on for yourself, but you're also dealing con esto otro. How is it for you to like balance, being so happy and excited for this really big career moment for yourself, but also being like, damn, I gotta touch grass and be there for my mom and make sure that, todo esté bien con ella.
It was one of those things I was like, oh, this is not possible. I don't know how. There was so much time that I was like, this is not okay. This is not normal. This, you know, and there was, I don't know. It was just one of those things where it was like, you just have to do it. You just have to do it. There's no option. I mean, when you don't grow up with options, then you learn that it's like, well, that's it. Just do it. Just do what you have to do. It's like you can cry. I spent so much time on the freeway crying. I spent so much time after class because I was also like I was a full-time college student. Univision was my job for 2-3 days a week. I was also working at Charlie's, Philly cheesesteaks at the mall food court at the same time. And so it was like, there was no, like, it was like, I still have to do what I have to do and just figure it out. So I don't think that there at that time was actually like a good balance. I think that it was really just like, what are you gonna do? Not do it?
Yeah.
I can't not do it.
Do you feel like you were like on airplane mode?
Yeah.
Where you were just like, I gotta do what I gotta do to keep going.
That's
And
it.
I know I'm going through shit, but like this is keeping me occupied, and it's kind of taking time from me to just keep thinking about what really is going on in my life.
I think what a lot of us don't notice when you're going through hard things in life, and I wish we would, I wish it'd be easier to notice while it's happening, is like, I look back and think like, damn, like I had great coworkers at Univision. I had great coworkers at Charlie's, at the Philly cheesesteak. You know, I was really good friend. You know, I worked at the movie theater right next door to Charlie's, and I had all my friends were working there. And so it's like, at least it was like, you could go through it, but also like I wasn't completely alone. I think when you go through stuff, you'll be venting to someone, whoever's in the room, and then years later you'll be like, oh damn, I was venting to that person. They were there.
Yeah.
And I think it's super frustrating sometimes when you realize like, damn, like I wish I would have known that I wasn't, you know. And my friend Jasper was my best friend, and he was with me for all of that time. that my mom was in the hospital. We would go in there, and night after night, he would just be sitting with me. I would just sit in the silence, because for me, I was like, because I don't know about you, but like for me, like I hate when people are like, "Oh, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Bitch.
Like, no, does it fucking look like I'm okay?
Like, oh yeah, oh no, I'm good.
Or I get it. No, you fucking don't. I'm like, you're not in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember like Jasper would be sitting next to me and in the hospital room, and then we'd leave, and he'd be like, "How are you feeling?" And I'd be like, "What do you think? Like, what do you think? Like, this is so stupid. Like, just
Yeah.
stop already. Like, what do you think? You know?" I was so mad, and a few weeks had passed, and then my mom got out of the hospital, and then Jasper was walking home from work one day, and then he got murdered while walking home from work. Like, I remember just being like, this whole thing is like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know, I was like in my class. I remember being in my psychology class in particular, and which was great. Like, I love that class. I love, like, the people in there were so cool, and you know, like, that topic is so good. And I remember just like being in that room, in that classroom, and thinking like, am I supposed to be in class right now? Or is there somewhere else that you're supposed to be when your mom just got out of the hospital and your best friend just got murdered? Like, there must be somewhere that you're supposed to actually be. And I don't know if there was, and I still don't. But that, like, 2016 ending, 2017 was such a, like, crazy place and time. So I think sometimes I'm still
Like processing it.
yeah, and I think like that has led me to have like sometimes moments where I don't feel like a super good person or a good friend.
But I feel like that's super normal because, look, going back to, you know, what I was telling you about when my grandpa passed away, I felt like it was like one of the best times for me professionally. My next question que te quería preguntar, obviamente, you know, you're going through this like amazing moment in your professional life, and then you're going through these very devastating moments with your best friend and your mom. Do you feel like in esos momentos, now looking back, you know, because I look back at moments where I was accomplishing things, and to me they were like, okay, what's next? Like, okay, let's keep it going. Donde casi no aprecias lo que Dios te está dando, you know what I mean? Like, donde casi you're like I look back at moments now and I'm like, what the fuck? I did that? But in the moment, like, no sentí nada. I was just kind of doing it because we had to get it fucking done, but I was going through so much emotionally that como que casi no te deja disfrutar los momentos bonitos de tu vida. Did you feel like during that time, even though Univision was such a big deal for you at that moment, did you feel like you really couldn't enjoy or really be like, wow, I'm here, because your head was everywhere?
I feel like at that time it was still going, like I was balancing it out where I really didn't think about it. And when I say balancing very loosely, because it wasn't balanced, it was just like logistically balanced, not wellness balance, you know? And so I think that now, in the last few years since I moved to LA, what you're talking about is what has happened since I got to LA.
Yeah.
Where I do these crazy things that I never thought would happen, like Noche de Pendejadas. And I don't even realize that I did them because of that. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't. It was just like another task, you know. And like the best way that I like structured it one day with my therapist in Visalia before I moved away, not Visalia, in Reno, before I moved away from Reno, was this idea of like,
I feel like that's exactly what I'm going through right now, like the past year, where I like to describe it very much as airplane mode, where you're just doing things by the day to get whatever you got to get done. And then you look back. Okay, so fun fact, this actually was funny because I was talking to my suegros. Me and my boyfriend got in an accident like 2 weeks ago. Like the whole accident thing was only in our head that day that we got in the accident. Maybe like 5-6 days later, we went to my suegro's house and they're like, how are you guys feeling? Like, how was the accident? In my head, I was like, bitch, I forgot about that. Like, I've moved on. Like, oh shit. And then I stopped myself and I was like, oh shit, that happened like 4 days ago. But I think to me, like my mind is just like, go, 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 go. Keep yourself occupied. Do what you gotta do to not think about what really is going on in your life. So I feel, I don't know if you can like relate to that, where like you sometimes just do things to like get by, and our brain just, without us realizing, kind of puts all the bad stuff in the back burner para no estresarnos, para protegernos, que a veces we lose the sense of like, damn, dude, like I'm going through a lot, but like no se siente como mucho, because our brain is literally like canceling it out.
I think what happens is, or what it feels like happens, is that there's like a meter or like a scale of our life, and it feels like when something amazing is happening, it's like it's like the highest on this radar, and then like the lowest, like. And so I think what happens is like I've never really experienced like normal hardships. It was always like, oh, like the worst hardship. But also like when you become whatever this is that I do in LA, and things change and your life changes completely and you do these crazy things, that's also the top of the meter, crazy and amazing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like what happens is like the lows are low, like the lowest, the highs are the very highest. And so I think your body, your brain, your body can't even tell which one is which, that it's just like, well, I just gotta do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to, your mom's bedside in the hospital, or that feels almost the same as like filming, being in a part of a movie.
Yeah.
Like those are such crazy opposites that like your body just kind of like freezes up and you can't tell.
How do you manage to like give yourself props or just like a little self-recognition of what you're doing? Because you've done crazy and amazing things. You've been, at the Golden Globes, you've been at a lot of red carpets, you've done amazing things that I feel like as influencers or people que crecieron no en ese mundo only dream to be a part of it, but nos explicas que has tenido momentos where like it just feels like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do. How do you step back and be like, wow, I really am living the fucking dream? How does Leo do it?
It takes a lot of time, there's just like random moments where where you're with a certain person, or maybe you're in a certain place, but it doesn't come often.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of parts of me that are normally just like, oh, that's crazy, like that was amazing. A lot of it is really just like, it'll just come random, and when it comes, I have to like be like, okay, I need to stay here. I need to sit here as long as I can, because I never get this type of like self-awareness, and so I want to live in it as long as I can, a few minutes, see if we can stay here a while.
Obviamente you've gone through a lot with your mom and just your life. Do you feel like a lot of it has affected your mental health? Me estabas contando anoche that you struggle with anxiety. Do you feel like a lot of the reason for that is because that cuando tú sientes que empezaste a sentir como ansiedad, was it like tied to a specific moment where you're like, oh shit, I'm experiencing something that I've never experienced? Or was it something that kind of just built gradually with everything you were going on as you were growing up?
It felt like it came on super early in my life. I think it just got worse. I think like when it started, it was one of those things that was like it's there, but like I still have things to do. And as I got older, it was like, I still have things to do, but like, it's getting harder to shove it. I think it's harder as you get older because you get even more busy, and then you become like an influencer or whatever. And then it's like, oh, like now I'm at an age where it's like, it will not be ignored. And I'm like, oh no, but I just got here. It starts to feel like, oh, bro, but like,
espérame.
I never had resources before. I never had a stable home. I never had any of these stable things and a stable car. And now I have all these things, and I have so much freedom to do a lot of what I want. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but anxiety is like, bro, we gotta talk. It feels like it's just, I don't know. It's just, it gets to a point that you just can't avoid it. You can't ignore it. I think as a person with anxiety, and I know a lot of us do have it, but I think I tend to lock eyes with people who I see in the public space that have spoken up about it. Those are the people that I really respect. I always think about someone like this guy. His name's Carson Daly, and he's one of the anchors of the Today Show on NBC. And I've been a fan of him since I was a kid, because he used to have a show that was late at night called, I think it was called Last Call with Carson Daly. He was a late night talk show host. And he's the one of the only people that is like a celebrity, like a proper, like, you know, well-known figure that like he talks about his anxiety. I don't know. There's people like that. I think when when you have like a certain thing, you look at the other person who like talks about it. You know, you look at someone like Michael Phelps, the swimmer. Is that his name? Michael Phelps, I think.
I'm like, sure.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yes, that's his name. Me.
I want to say it is, but he's like one of the best swimmers in the world, and he talks about it. He talks about his anxiety, his depression. And I feel like those are the people that you like really look to, because it's like, okay, like I just want to know that you've talked about it. We don't ever have to talk. We don't ever have to meet, but I just like, it's just nice to know that someone else has it and is open about it.
If you've ever had anxiety, you know, viene con ataques, viene with feeling overwhelmed, viene con literally, oh my God, I feel like this episode came at the perfect time because I literally was having a full-blown convo as I was getting ready with my mom, because me contó ella that she feels like she finally accepted. She's like, I think it's anxiety what I have. Like, la impotencia, you know, she's like, I feel like sometimes I can't breathe. I feel like, you know, I get overwhelmed, this, and that. And I was like, Mom, that's anxiety. And I feel like for a lot of Latinos, for our parents, or just, you know, las otras generaciones, sometimes don't like to accept the fact that it's real, right? Because anxiety is so real. And I feel like, you know, nos cuentas que tú tuviste un momento donde you saw someone you looked up to talk about it, and you're like, oh shit, me too. That's how I feel. That's what's going on with me. Do you feel like at the beginning when you were getting anxious, when you were dealing with the anxiety, did you not know what you were dealing with? You're like, oh my God, why am I getting like this?
Yeah, I didn't realize. I think as a kid, you're just like, dang, I'm just like really weird. You know, I just think like I'm just like so scared about everything, and like it's just like that you don't really know that there's a name for it, and then it's like such a weird thing when you're like getting older, you're growing up, and then. You know, it's like there's like a light bulb moment when you're like, oh, I think it's anxiety. Like I think that's what it is, because I can't be okay no matter what. In the past, I was like, I'm super depressed and I have no anxiety. And then at some point, I was like, well, I'm not really depressed anymore. I'm not really sad, but I have anxiety now. And then and so it's like when you think about that stuff, when I've thought about that stuff, I've thought like I don't know which one's better. It was really nice when I didn't have depression anymore. But then anxiety took over, and I was like, "Oh, this is not much better."
You're like, I don't think I like the exchange.
Yeah.
Literally, like you're like, oh wait, I bring the sadness back. I'd rather be crying.
Sad, bitch.
How does anxiety show up in your day-to-day life for you?
I mean, it shows up in the morning, and it stays there throughout the day in little pockets.
It kicks it with me.
It's my best friend now.
You're like, he's right here.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see him? Yeah, it really is like, it's there every day, and it's like just like that voice that makes decisions for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I said earlier, like there's been so many times in the last few years that I've realized, and that's the worst part, is that you realize it, that I've like lost friendships over anxiety, because it really takes over those situations, and you will sit by yourself and think about certain things, and then you know, after 40 minutes, you're like, oh, actually, like, can't really be friends with them anymore.
Yeah.
I just realized I can't be friends. I can't do this thing anymore. I shouldn't do this. And I don't know if I want to do social media anymore. And I don't know if I can, you know, and then, you know, things will move around a lot. But I mean, that's just, I think, that's just the mental disorders, and so it's really hard to really know yourself sometimes. You know?
Has there been moments where anxiety has really taken over you to where you're like, I'm just done. Like, this is too much for me. This is very overwhelming. Like, hasta aquí quedó lío.
No. You know what it is? It's like I still have that thing inside of me that's like, I'm not going to crash out when something's on the line. It's one of those things that's like, it's the same as before with all the things that happen in my life, where it's like, I'm just going to get it done and I'll crash out after in the car, you know?
When no one's watching.
Yeah. Or when one friend is watching, not when I'm, you know, doing a red carpet hosting, or when I'm, you know what I mean? It's like, that's when it happens. And so there's many of my friendships where I think about them and think like, I wish that you knew me as a normal person, because like I do love you and I do cherish you and I do really respect you. That's not me.
Yeah.
you know, and there's people that I like stopped talking to over the last few years, like even in the social media space, that I'm like, oh man, like,
Cuéntanos un poquito of how you cope with anxiety, and also if anyone at home is watching today, what would you have liked to hear when you've dealt with anxiety para la gente que está escuchando el día de hoy?
ooh, I mean, coping with anxiety, I mean, I know a lot of people go through medication and stuff like that. I've never really been able to find a good spot with that. And so for me, I really just lean on my friends. I mean, and I think that's anxiety, but it's also just like being an only child. It's like when you don't have siblings, it's like your friends are your family. Like your friends are everything to you. And I mean, that's the same with anxiety. Is like I just need to find the right balance sometimes. I'm in like a weird spot where I feel like an introvert sometimes, and I always feel like an extrovert too, because I'm like, I do want to, like, I don't want to be alone. Like, there's sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to be alone, but only a few minutes. I don't leave. You know, I'll go to the room, and you know what I mean. Like,
You're like, give me a 5-minute break.
yeah, that's it. Like, I can't do that stuff where people are like, oh, I got to recharge by myself. No, I get that. But for me, I'm like, no, like, I need you to, like, just be here in the quietness with me. And that's it. I don't need to talk about it. There's no venting that I need to do, really. A lot of it is just like, please just sit here, and that's it. And so I think that's a lot of what it looks like for me is like, let's just go. I love to travel too, like, anytime that I can go away, like, and go to a concert. I'm like, that's what I want. Like, we all love music. That's not unique. But like for me, I'm like, that's my one thing that I'm like, bro, like, musicians are like the coolest people than anybody. Every time I'm like, I'm like, that's all I want to be around. You know, it's hard. It's hard because it's like you want to rely on people sometimes, but you also like, it's like, oh, I also don't want to be like
A burden.
codependent.
Yeah. Or codependent, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to learn how to be interdependent. I think we're not made to be alone. We're not made to be on an island. I think we're made to be interdependent and codependent to an extent. But I think you have to also like teach people what your love language is, how to love you, how to be there, because a lot of people are not built to be people that are there for anxious people.
I love that though. I'm listening to Leo. I feel like I'm the one in therapy session. I feel like I'm
And
like,
you are.
wow. No, only because I relate to it 100% en el sentido de que a mí también, yo soy un tipo de persona that I have a lot of things going on, but I always feel like no one will understand. You know what I mean? Like, and I always feel like I love being with my boyfriend and my best friend. Like, just sit down in the same couch as me. Don't ask me what's going on. I just need you there to be there as my thoughts are rolling to make sure that I'm not alone. And I feel like it is very important to, like, obviamente I do, sometimes tell them what I'm going through, but I feel like it is very important to have those people that when things are getting too bad or things are getting a little bit where you can't understand or where you just need someone to hear you out, que tengas esas personas. This episode of Noche de Pendejadas is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the US, I know they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I know I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I found Booking.com to have something for everyone. I just got back from Las Vegas, you guys, and of course que me quedé in a hotel that I booked through Booking.com. I stayed at the link. Y déjales digo, amigas, a mí me encanta ese hotel because it's in the middle of the strip and it was also super close to the stadium because we went to WrestleMania this past weekend. I also do love the rooms in the hotels porque están súper bonitos y súper limpios. Y pues obviamente bueno, bonito y barato. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com. Booking.yeah. I want to go back a little bit to being the only child. Cuéntanos un poquito eso. I feel like you're such a creative person y se enseña, in your work, in your content. Do you feel like, that creativity came from you being an only child because you were alone most of the time, that you had to your imagination had to be on point. What was that like growing up for you, being an only child, when it came to that?
I mean, I think when you're an only child, you learn how to build a lot of things out of a little bit of things. I always as a kid, I just was how can I make this little set feel like a TV show? How can I make this thing? I always thought I used to make little machines, like slot machines, like casino type carnival games, And I feel like you keep doing that as you get older. It's just you just want to learn how to do it because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. Did you want a sibling growing up?
Oh, of course. I still want a sibling now. Yeah, of course. I always did. And I always felt super because there's a lot of people that are when you tell them you're an only child, people are oh, you were spoiled. I'm like, I wear, bitch.
Do you feel like you weren't spoiled growing up?
No, well, no.
Well, you had so much going on that there was
so
no
much
time.
Going on. I would have loved to have shared that.
You're spoil me.
Yeah,
You're who's getting the spoiling? Yeah. Mucha gente, when I think about being an only child, I'm like, la tuvo bien. Sus papás se dedicaron a él, a su felicidad. Do you feel like you were very lonely growing up because you were an only child?
Yeah, of course. I think, you're there with a single parent who's sick. Of course, you feel very lonely and, just unaccompanied, it feels like.
Quiero platicar un poquito de lo que haces el día de hoy. Ahorita te vemos all over the For You page, pero no siempre fue así. Hubo un tiempo donde dijiste, ¿sabes qué? Voy a agarrar mi teléfono, me voy a grabar porque posiblemente me quiero dedicar a esto. Cuéntanos un poquito. What got you into creating content? How did you start? And what were the early days of content creating for you?
I never even thought about doing it. I was working at my last job, which was 5 years ago. When I started doing the content, I literally just did one video. I never even had a TikTok. The only reason I downloaded TikTok was because I wanted to see Adam Ray Okay's videos. That's the only reason because I started seeing those videos on Twitter and I did not have a TikTok account. And I was like, bro, I've never seen someone do that, because I was already following people who did POV style content, but they were this girl named Grace and this guy Caleb Heron who I am friends with now. I was seeing these people do this type of niche comedy. And Adam was truly the first Latino person that I saw that type of comedy. And I was like, I don't know, man. I need to download this app. I just want to download just because I'm bro, I was on Twitter, I'm I ran out of videos to see.
Yeah.
I need to see more of his
Because it would be just reposts, right?
Yeah,
people
the
would
reposts,
get them
other
from
people.
TikTok. Yeah. It wasn't Adam himself posting it on TikTok. On Twitter.
Yeah, and so then I made a TikTok account. I followed. This is my first person because I was bro, you're so funny, so, and I don't think that people really understand, especially during the pandemic, such an early time in the pandemic. It's I remember seeing all those videos and being no, you're I don't think you're realizing that's an actual trailblazer.
Yeah.
There's so many Latinos that are doing it now, including myself, who were not doing it then, who I feel are here because of people like that.
Yeah.
I think about Adam's stuff, all that. I'm genuinely a fan on that day. And now I'm and I think from that point to now to the rebrand that he's done too, I'm nah, you're great. Yeah. So that's a side note. But so I made the TikTok account just to see more videos.
It was all a fan page.
Yeah. And then one day I was trying to be a news reporter. That's what I studied in school. And so when I got my degree, I was in Reno, and I was okay, now I'm ready to be a reporter. I think I can do it. I've worked on different news stations for the last few years, and Univision taught me a lot because it was Fresno is a big breaking news market. And as a photographer in Fresno, I feel I was very efficient. Let's go to this scene, do this interview, edit, put it on the news in time. And then when I went to Reno, and I was working behind the scenes, Reno was such a smaller market when it came to breaking news. And so I was I think that I can be a reporter here. I really think that I could. And I applied and I didn't get anything. And then I made a TikTok My first TikTok was like pretending to be a news reporter. And then that changed everything, because then from that point I was like, okay, like I don't know what this is. Like I've never done comedy. I've never done skits. If you guys like that, then I'll do more. I have
like,
more
de aquí
ideas.
soy. Yeah,
pues,
you're like,
pues, ya
aquí me
que.
quedo. Ah, you're like,
yeah.
aquí me siento.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Obviamente, you know, you start doing TikToks. You were telling us earlier that you had so many other jobs at the same time. You know, what was the moment or the video where you're like, you know what? I want to pursue this full time.
I think the moment was like there was a like on my birthday in 2020. I came to LA because I came to meet up with these two guys, Victor and Grinder hookup. No, I came to.
You're like threesome.
Yeah.
Bitch.
I came to meet up with these two guys, Gil and Victor. And Gil was doing acting and Victor was doing like TikToks. And I was like, I don't know, like I want to just see if they're down to collab on a video. I don't know, like I'll write some stuff. And so I showed up on my birthday, met up with them in Echo Park, and we did like 5 videos that day. And I remember just like, I was like, bro, I don't know what we just did. I had like maybe 300,000 followers at that time. And I was like, I don't know what I just did, but like I just want to do more of that. I don't have a career goal. I don't want to act. And mind you, like this is just barely years after all that stuff that happened. And I was like, this is just fun. And I want to keep going. And I feel like that day I really was like, I love these two people. They're so nice. They're so normal and safe. And I remember just like about a month later, we were talking and I just floated it. We floated it as like a joke. Like, imagine if we moved in together. That'd be funny, you know? And I think it just was like, oh, maybe we could.
You're like,
right?
Let me look at the bank account.
Yeah,
I think we can afford it.
And I was like, and I couldn't.
You're
No,
like,
but-
I was just winging it.
No, we were, because I had, so we had decided like we're gonna apply for a place. Gil went to go look for the apartment in Crenshaw. He found a place, and I'd never been to LA like that. Like I only ever came to Hollywood because like I always loved like late night talk show stuff, and so I was always coming to be in the audience, but I never came to like LA. So Gil went to go tour this apartment in Crenshaw, and we were like, well, let's apply for it. It'll be like $670 each of us. And I was like, I could do that. Like the Creator Fund at that time, I was like, it's doing okay. I was doing DoorDash and Instacart deliveries when I was in Reno. So I was like, oh, I could do that. Like, yeah, we applied and I came to LA and I was like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't have any plan. I don't have any goal or dream. I just want to do this. And I want to do this with them. And when I tell you, like, genuinely, these two people I think about so often, because I'm like, they were just like the right people for that time of my life.
Yeah.
And I just like fell in love with them immediately. Victor was such a normal, calm, like funny person whose parents are amazing. Gil was like my best friend, like my warmth and comfort. And I was just like, I'm just doing these skits and I'm so scared about if we're gonna pay rent, if I'm gonna pay rent. And I can't fail. They can, in my mind, I felt like they can fail because they're already from LA. Mm-hmm. They can go back with their families. I was like, I can't fail because they already replaced me with my room in Reno. Like, so they were just like the perfect people, perfect
people,
fit.
right time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent almost a year there before I moved out.
Cuéntanos un poquito, obviamente, you know, you start pursuing social media as a career, which I feel like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know how your parents were, but it kind of seems crazy. Like, imagine your kid telling you, like, Mom, I feel like now it's a little bit more normal because I feel like, you know, with social media, how it's grown. But I feel like even then, like to tell your parents like, hey, you know, I'm going to quit my jobs. I'm going to really focus on social media. Was there people that doubted you, or did you doubt yourself where you're like, girl, I'm just going with the flow. Si sirve bien, si no, no. Was there people that doubted you? If so, how did that make you feel in that moment?
I mean, if there were people that doubted me, then I'm glad that they didn't tell me, because I was just walking.
Yeah.
You know, there was no part of me like that was like, I'm just doing this. And if I fail, then I fail. I don't want to fail. I can't. But like, I know how to work. You know, I worked in different positions and at different news stations. So like maybe even if I don't work here in LA, I had interviewed for a job in Houston for a news station there, and they were interested. So I was like, oh, I can go there. I'll just move, like whatever. Like it was such a time that I was like, whatever, I'll
Like go with the flow vibes.
Yeah. And like there was nobody really that I was like reporting to
Yeah.
where they could be like, oh, that's not a good idea. No, you know, there wasn't any of that. It was just like I'm doing it, and you know, I wasn't telling my parents about it much because, you know, my mom wasn't able to understand stuff like that yet, and my dad also, you know, I think she couldn't understand health wise, and my dad couldn't understand because I mean he has a wife and kids in Mexico. He's living his life, so it wasn't like I was like, by the way, this is what I'm doing.
One thing about your content, I feel like mucha gente see the effort. You know what I mean? Because yo pienso que va de content creator a content creator, where you really can see the effort put into like a video versus some people that you're like, oh, they're just popping content like nothing, like they grab their phone and boom, boom, boom. And I feel like one thing about you, do you write scripts?
Mm-hmm.
How is that whole process like? Because I feel like your videos are so funny, so entertaining, but I feel like there has to be a whole brainstorming, like, you know, situation going on before you even film. How do you come up with these ideas, or what's your brainstorming process like?
It's hard right now because right now I have a creative block. Like right now I can't think of nothing. Yeah, it's tough. But like there's random times where I'll like sit there and I'll just like spend like hours, 6-10 hours, and it'll take me that long like to write 5 skits, you know, even though like when we film it, it'll still be like a little bit of improv because there's like also like different places that I come from. There's stuff that I'm like, I think this is funny. I think this is funny. I think that 90% of my audience will not think it's funny, but I do. So I'm gonna post it because I think it's funny, and I think that the 10% are people that I also relate with, and they followed because of that part of me. Then there's like the other part that's like, I don't think this is funny. I think they might think it's funny, and then there's like the other part of like, I think this will be a bigger video. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's not funny. I don't think, you know, it's like there's different places, a lot of
like you're like, this is not funny to me, but it's relatable to my audience vibes. Yeah.
And there's stuff that doesn't make sense. There's stuff that is like, oh, it's common, so I think this will be good. There's stuff that's not common, doesn't make sense, but it's like what we wish we could say or what we wish would happen. So, you know, it's hard because I also like, I don't like to do TikToks. I don't like to do videos about things that are happening in the world. You know, like I'm not the type to do like, oh, like egg prices are expensive, so I'm gonna do an egg price skit.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to do videos that are evergreen. They can be watched in 10 years and it's just relatable no matter what happened that day.
Yeah.
And I don't cuss in the videos. I'm trying not to be too like opinionated in them.
Like you're just there to like make people laugh.
I just hope that they're like relatable. That's it, you know, because I feel like people are like, they have enough of like the political stuff. They have enough of all that other stuff. And I don't promote stuff that I don't think is real, you know, because I don't like when people are like feel like they're not getting, you know, where they feel like they're not getting me, or it's like too far away, because it's like, like if I posted it, like it's still kind of like me, or it's a version of me, or it's an observation of me, you know.
¿Cómo le haces? Because I feel like you're such a great actor. Like aside from like, you know, your scripts and just your content, I feel like the reason why they go viral, I think a lot has to do with your acting skills. Was that like something that you always did growing up, or just it was naturally?
I never acted, so like I don't know, like I
hope like this is me being me.
I know. Like, I'm like, the camera's just on.
Yeah.
No, I've never acted, and I never went to school or anything. So like whenever I post, I'm like, I think this is my take on how I see the world.
Yeah.
Or when I am pretending to be someone else, it's like I'm just acting exactly how I saw them. That's just how they were. I I don't think,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know.
Like, you don't think too much into it. You're just kind of like, oh, that's how I see it. I'm going to
That's how it
replicate it.
looked.
That's crazy because I feel like for me, my management has tried to get me into like acting, even voice acting, but I feel like it's so hard. I'm like, it's already hard being me. No. But you know what I mean? I feel like for me, like when I try to act or they like read this script, I'm like, bitch, I don't know how to deliver it other than me. And I feel like that's a big talent because as actors, you really do have to get into the role, into the character to like deliver. And I feel like you do it so naturally, whether you're being a waitress in your videos, whether you're being whatever you're doing in your videos, you deliver it so effortlessly that it's like, oh, he's just being himself. Quiero platicar de otra cosa. Because of social media, in 2021, you joined a content house, the Familia Fuego. How did that come to be? Who called you up? How did you get the news? Did you reach out? They reached out. ¿Cómo pasó todo eso?
The Fuego House was, that was
2021, yeah.
I mean, we got reached out to by the management company that put it together. And I mean, it was amazing. It was a launch pad. Like they were like, would you want to move into this house for 6 months? It's in Hollywood Hills. And I was living in Crenshaw and I was like, I'm down. I don't know. Like it didn't seem real. But I was like,
Did you think
I'll
it was
do
like
it. I have
fake
nothing to. I
at the
did. I thought it was fake until I moved out. Like because there was that part of me that's like, oh, something's fishy.
Like they're gonna come and kick me out at any moment. Yeah.
You know, I was like, save my room in Crenshaw. I was still paying rent in Crenshaw, and so yeah, I was like, it was crazy.
You know, you get this opportunity thrown at you. Cuéntanos un poquito del first day. You know, obviamente. You show up. Did you know all the people that were going to be in the house before? Or was it just like you knew them online but not in person?
I knew 3 of them. Alexia, we had met already. We were friends already. We had met, I think, on Zoom like a year ago before that. Monica, I don't know if we had met yet, but I knew who she was. And I was a fan of Jesus too, obviously. I had never seen Izzy yet until that day.
How was that like? Obviamente, preparing yourself mentally, like, look, you're gonna go live with people that you've never lived with. Porque yo pienso que el vivir con alguien, aunque sea tu amigo o no, it's kind of like, all right, now we're gonna really see how these people are. Was that like nerve-wracking for you, like showing up to a house and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna be under the same roof as other creators? What are the vibes?
No, yo no estaba pensando en eso porque for me, I was like, bro, I'm about to be in a mansion. Like, I was excited. I'm ready to be there because like, there was a pool there, you know, like
yeah.
I was like,
I went to that mansion. I think that was like our
did.
first time that we met each other at the mansion when you guys had your Halloween party. You remember like your Halloween, was it?
It was my
your birthday, yes.
That
but it
was
also
crazy.
Like a Halloween party too, no?
It was a Halloween theme.
It was Halloween
my birthday.
theme. It was your birthday. That was like the first time I met Leo, you guys.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
That was crazy.
How was that? Obviamente, el going from, oh shit, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to afford the $600 rent apartment versus like, now you're in the hills, in this luxury ass house. What was that for you?
That was so wild because I mean, you also really can't prepare for that either. You know, it's like one of those things that's like, oh, I guess this is happening, so we're here. And I think that's where I was also thinking about the comparison that I told you about, like the meter of like lowest low and highest high. It's like the mansion was like such a big high that I was like, you don't really know what you're feeling, you know, but it was amazing. It was so fun. And the party was so cool. I think that was like, it was cool because like DirecTV had like sponsored it and I'd never had anything that felt like, I was like, oh, am I like getting sponsored?
Famous? You're like, am I like popping?
Am I important?
Bitch. You're like, am I worth it?
Yeah, exactly. I remember meeting you. I remember meeting a bunch of you guys, including Adam, and I don't think I had met Adam before. And so when Adam showed up, I was so starstruck too, because I was like, bro, like, I'm such a fan. And now you're here. Like, that's crazy. That circle went crazy from Nevada to LA. I loved it. And we really liked each other, all the people that were there. And I was a fan of them.
What was the schedule like? Porque obviamente whoever was sponsoring the house no nomás iba a decir, vente a dormir, a acostarte, echar pedo y echar peda, ¿verdad? Like, obviamente, you know, for those of you guys that don't know, how do Content House operates? Because I feel like there's a lot, and I feel like a lot of people don't know like a little bit of the behind the scenes. Porque ustedes no estaban pagando la renta, ¿o sí?
No. I mean, I don't know how most of the content houses, but this one was, again, I guess I I just don't know. Ours was sponsored by DirecTV, so we had assignments, brand deals that we had to do as a house and then individually. And so, I mean, we woke up and like we had like certain things on our calendar. We all have the same manager, Brendan, and then we had a house manager, Chris, who was there making sure that we had everything we needed in the house. We had a team of people that were like making sure like whatever we need, wherever, and they took care of us like crazy. I mean, we got like so many resources there, and so for us it was so fun because it was like, oh, today you're gonna go to be in a parade. Tomorrow you're gonna go do a skit with this person. You're gonna do this brand deal together.
Then you're gonna be at an award show because they took you guys to award shows. No,
did they take us to award shows?
I saw like maybe like Aladdin.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, I remember.
They took us to
was it Latin Grammys?
Univision one. No.
Or Premio Lo Nuestro.
Premio Lo Nuestro.
Yes, I remember.
That was our first one. Yeah, they took us to our first carpet, which was for the movie Sing 2, I think. And that was crazy. That was like, I think that's the first carpet I'd been to, and that was crazy because I was like, bro, like, the cast is here. It was at the one of the outdoor theaters there in Los Feliz area, Griffith area, the Greek theater.
Okay.
It was so weird. And then the Premio Lo Nuestro was so crazy because we went to Miami for that all together. And that was like that was the end of our time there.
Really?
It was like,
okay.
that was on the schedule for the end. And so it was nice because it was like, we were like doing field trips, they're like, where do you want to go? And then we went to Miami for that. And it was cool. I felt weird because I was like, I'm grown.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think they're all like at least 2 years younger than me.
So you were the oldest in the group?
I was the oldest, yeah.
Did you feel like a father figure in there?
No, I didn't.
You're like, no, I still feel young. Tampoco tan viejo.
No, I'm the baby.
You're like, no, I was a child.
No, I think the one who was like parental was Monica.
Okay.
Because Monica has that personality of like caregiver. She was very concerned.
She has a baby now, right?
Yeah,
which
so
I love that for her. Yeah, that was her test.
I know. She raised us.
Literally.
So yeah, I think she was the one, and Alexia was the other one they were both very parental. Alexia was such a important part of my time there emotionally.
When you look back into that era of your life, what do you think was your favorite moment of that era?
It was just us being there doing nothing sometimes. Like I loved whenever we would go and like Jesus, so my room was the one that was like facing the backyard and his room was the one facing the front of the house. And so I just loved that we were like right there. Our doors were like there. We would just like almost like to like this night market, or let's just go do this. Like, I love that, and then Monica was across. They were all across on the other side because they couldn't trust us with the girls. Yeah.
Oh, it was that like a thing? Did you guys get to choose your rooms?
I think we got to choose. I think
or
so.
Like first come, first serve?
I feel like we got to choose. I will say like Alexia had probably the best room because she had a bathroom. She had her own
She had the
bathroom.
master.
She had a big bathroom and everything. But I had the sliding doors to the backyard.
To the pool.
Yeah, so I snuck in my friends at night, I know I did too.
Honestly though, that house was so gorgeous que
was so nice.
tírenme en la pinche backyard, me vale verga. Like I'll make my little tent.
Yeah.
Because it was a really nice
so
house.
nice.
It was all glass. It was up in the hill. I remember that party was so iconic. I remember getting there late. I do remember getting there super late.
I do too.
You're like, you were literally there to clean up. I was all invited to be the cleanup crew. No, but I do remember getting there late, but I had so much fun. I feel like you really did enjoy that time there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you would do it again? Like a content house?
I could not do it again because
Why?
I'm bigger now. I'm grown. I'm 30 now. At that time, I was already like, bro, this is the latest.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, bro, people would be like, start a family? You know what I mean? Like,
you're like, when are you getting married?
Yeah.
Like it's more, I feel like it's also like a thing you grow into because I feel like I wouldn't be able to do a content house at this moment in my life. I love my peace in my home. Was it hard for your social battery to keep being up? Because you had to interact with all of them, or sometimes you're like, déjenme en paz, me voy a meter en el cuarto.
No, because with them, it was like we were just friends. And like it was so normal. I think that's the difference. And I'm not trying to be like shady in this, but like that's the difference is that we're all Latinos. So we all spoke the same. And we all had the same, like, very similar backgrounds. And, like, I think it was nice because, like, Monica was so motherly, but also, like, Izzy's mom was with us, too. Like, a lot of the time she would come and, like, she'd be there. So it was like, oh, like, we have a mom here, too, like, casually. And Jesus is one of the funniest people I've ever met. And so I think, like, at that time, it was like, oh, like, we're just, like we're just bouncing ideas and, like, little riffs and you know, so it was like, it wasn't ever, it would be different if it was like, you know, like, there's, like, some social media events where I'm like, like, son creídos y se creen super, like,
La
famoso, you know,
mera
like,
verga.
and I feel like there was no, like, levels like that. Like,
There was no egos
there
in
was
the
no
house.
egos.
Because
And
I feel like that's the thing that can get to people, the ego.
we were so small still.
Yeah.
We had still, like, smaller followings, so I think there wasn't room for that anyways, but also I think we were all super just like, what is going on?
Yeah. You know, I want to move on to what you're doing today. Ahorita, como nos mencionaste earlier on, you're on tour for your comedy show. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about that. ¿Cómo empezó esa idea? How did that come to be? When did you feel like, you know what, I think it's time for me to go on tour? Was that scary? What was all that like?
It is scary, but I think it can because I was I don't know. I think it just felt natural when I got signed to my agency. I think that's also one of the things that we talked about, where it was like I should, like, try it one day, see how it goes. And I started hanging out with one of my friends, Marcelo, during his shows when he would do stand up. And he told me for months, he was like, I want you to do some time on my show. And I'd be like, oh no, I don't think I can. I was like, bro, like, there's skits.
Yeah.
You know, like, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna, like, do a skit on stage.
Especially, like, with the live audience, you don't even know how they're gonna react. Yeah.
It's different when you do skit. I mean, I was so for like, in the very beginning of my videos, it was like all green screen. So I was like, that's not the same as being in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
You know, and so I said no. And then one day I called him. I went to the Olympics and he was at the Olympics. But when
Casually.
I got there, los de París. Sí,
You're like, I won an Olympic medal.
Yeah.
Takes it out right now. You're like, it's real. It's all the fucking chocolates. It's the chocolate.
But I remember being over there, and there was something so, like, nice because, like, when you're like in Paris and all these countries are competing, and I would see people with, like, the Mexican flag, and there's something about, like, when you're in Europe and you see American flag and Mexican flag, and you're like, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm over here, and, like, Europe is nice, Paris is beautiful, but like I'm like, that's where I'm like, I'm on a team. You know, when you're here, it's like, NFL teams, whatever. It's still cool. But it's like when you're in a whole other place, a whole other language, you're like, oh, that's my team.
Like you felt represented,
you know,
in a whole different country, yeah.
And I don't know, there was something so beautiful about that to where I remember, like, FaceTiming Marcelo when he was leaving Paris, and I was like, all right, like, can I have some time on your show? Can I just do a few, just see how it goes? And he was like, okay, listo, tú vienes. He was like, and if you don't show up, I won't even bother you about it.
Yeah.
If you show up to my show, then I know that you're going to do a few minutes. If you don't show up, I'm not going to question you anymore.
Yeah. Like, he was still prepared to, like, fill in for whatever time he was going to give you. Yeah.
And I remember being like, damn, I needed that. Because, you know, I almost felt like
the show is going to go on with or without you. Yeah. Take the opportunity or quédate. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, I needed that. I needed someone to be like, you're great and I'll let you be great. But if you don't want to be great, then I'm going to be great regardless.
Yeah.
And people are still coming. The show's still sold out. And we're, you know, and I went and I was so scared. And then it was good. It was fun. And then I went to New York a few months later, and I texted him. I was like, I'm going to go to your show. And he was like, okay, bet, you're going to do 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I did it. And then after that, I think I was like, let's see if it goes good. And so we announced a few dates and then did the Oxnard shows, sold out. And then we did 4 shows in San Diego I did a few days ago, sold out. I have San Jose in about a week, sold out. And then Irvine the next day in Texas. And there's some new cities that are, like, inquiring. Whenever the schedule frees up, I'm like, Orange County, how much?
That's funny. No, but how do you prepare for a show? Because, like, obviamente, you prepare for skits, you film them, redos. What is it like to prepare for a show? Do you, like, come up with the jokes, say them in front of your friends to see if they're funny enough. How does that whole process come? Because like we said, stand-up is so much different than like TikTok, because it's like, if people find it funny, move on. Versus if they don't, you're like awkwardly on stage. You're like,
Yeah, I try to do them in front of my friends, but I'm like, it's better to do it by myself, because I'm like, you don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it's two people and I'm in the kitchen, they're like, but I'm like, no, but I'm gonna move this way when I do it. You know, and like I'm like, but you don't get it because you don't know that video bit. You know what I mean? Like, and so what I did when I was in Spain a few weeks ago preparing for the tour is I recorded my whole hour on a voice memo, and I was just like walking through Spain, through Barcelona. But when I was walking around, I was just like listening to it over and over again on my flight back. I was listening to it over and over again, just trying to line it up. And so now, like, that the more shows that I do, I'm like remembering, okay, I'm gonna transition this way. But I think the best way to prepare, especially with anxiety too, is just like, as long as I have someone there who I can just like talk to a little bit, just be with and quiet, just put my music on. I literally, like, I'll go into the bathroom for like 5 minutes with just my music, and I'm just like standing there like looking at me like but then like feel like it changes up when you actually walk on stage.
Yeah.
And you think like, it's so nice, like you guys really made a night out of this. And like for you to budget me into your day and to your week, like that feels so nice. It feels so special. And so I feel like that's what gives me the energy. Once I'm on stage, it's like, okay, now let's do this. And like, I hope it's funny. I hope that they see a different side of me, and but I also hope that they feel like inspired too.
Yeah.
It's all life, and that's all these videos, all these skits. It's just making fun of ourselves and our situations.
You know, obviamente nos cuentas that you never had a vision for what you're living life today ever. Like, you didn't start doing social media with the goal of having your own comedy show. What is that like? Like, do you ever have moments where you're like, what the fuck? Like, okay, I was doing little TikToks that were blowing up, but now I have a whole ass show. What is that like?
I mean, it just feels so sweet. You know, I do have moments where I'm like, dang, like after like the meet and greets in San Diego, you have this moment of like, wow, like, it's just these people are so nice, and I think they make you realize the moment.
Yeah.
Because they're there. I mean, it's, you know, things are expensive. The tickets, they're not free, and like for them to make that investment, for them to like get food and drinks there, and they Ubered or whatever. Some people that drove from other cities, other states. It's like that's what it's like. Wow, like, you know, like it's very sweet and it's very encouraging.
You know, para la gente que quiere and maybe haven't gotten their tickets or do already
It's
have
sold
their
out.
tickets. I'm like,
It's
you
sold
can't
out.
go. So
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
even going to give you a preview. What can they expect at these shows? Because obviamente they're not going to expect what they're watching today. You're all sad on stage.
I
You're
know.
like, didn't sign
Like
up
I was
for
saying on
this.
Alan's podcast, it was hard.
Yeah, repeating the whole fuck.
yeah.
Like, just play his podcast on stage. It's a fucking
watch
night
it with
premiere.
them.
You're like, that's me. What can they expect? Like, what if I'm going to your show? What can I expect out of the night?
I mean, I think that you can expect to laugh. I think that you can expect to see the person that you see in the videos, but also more than that, I think you're seeing the producer of those videos. You're seeing the mindset behind like the people watcher, the observer, you know, the observational person that sees these, and I think that you can expect to just hear my story as I don't even know I need to do the tour. I just told you my story.
You're like,
Pues ya
fuck.
que.
I'm like, all right. I'm like, get tickets to my
Yeah,
live show.
yeah.
Do you do a lot of improv, or is it just like every show is the same?
It depends on the city because every audience is different. So
yeah.
like, you know, the different cultures, everything just feels new in everyone. So things.
Si me
change.
invitas al de Irvine, ahí estaré.
Full up.
You're like,
Full
don't.
up.
You're like, sold out. For
You're on
just
the
Alan.
list.
No, pero en verdad que sí, amigas. Aquí les voy a poner a flyer of all his tour dates, and I'll also go ahead and link them down below por si ustedes no quieren. Para que agarren sus pinches boletos, ahí se los voy a dejar, and see where he will be presenting himself in the next city near you. And with that being said, thank you so much for being here. Ya para terminar esta plática, porque yo sé que ya te quieres ir.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, I have a show coming up right now.
I'll be right outside.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, whether that's professionally, just you as a person? ¿En dónde te miras tú en los próximos 5 años?
I think in 5 years, hopefully I'm producing, my own productions, whether it's TV or movies. I mean, that's what I want to do. And I die tonight.
I'm like, you won't make it to that, babes. Just kidding. I'm fucking kidding. I'm like, really? I'm like, I already have a sniper outside. Just fucking kidding, bitch. I'm fucking kidding.
You called all my
You're
off.
like, really? 5 years? Maybe the question should be, what are you going to do in the next 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the last meal, babes? I'm fucking kidding. No, but where do you see yourself?
No.
I'm like, back to the barrio.
Yeah. No, I hopefully I will be producing my own stuff, and I don't know. I love LA. I want to just be traveling. I want to be a more normal version of myself too.
Y yo sé que todas las metas and all your goals, projects, se van a hacer posible because just by sitting down with you and seeing the type of work ethic that you have, yo sé que the sky's the limit, and I'm so happy and I'm so glad that we were able to have this porque yo sé que allá en casita pudieron ver una diferente versión de ti and we're able to really learn and really see. I'm like, oh shit, yo pensaba que el muchacho nomás era chistoso, yo pensaba que él nomás hacía sus videitos y ya, and I really do appreciate that you made time for us el día de hoy.
You're like, and turns out it was.
Like, turns out this episode.
Yeah. No, es bien mamón, sí.
Kidding, no, but I really do appreciate it.
Thank
¿Verdad
you.
que sí? This, like I said, it was a while in the making, but en verdad that the wait was worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I saw all your guests for years. I was like, damn, is it my turn yet?
I love it, and I really do appreciate que estás aquí el día con nosotros. Si no lo han seguido, amigas, ahí les voy a dejar all his links down below as well as on the screen. Y también no se les olvide seguirme a mí so you guys won't miss any future episodes. Once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much. Anytime. We'll do a rerun. Like in 2 years. I'm like, tomorrow. Part 2. No, pero en verdad, amigas, no se les olvide seguirlo a él y a mí. And with that being said, you guys, I love you guys so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys. Yay!